All right. Well, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pursuit of Growth. If it's your first time here, allow myself to introduce Oh, that's so cheesy. Like the first sentence I ever say on an official episode, and it's a quote from a movie, an Austin Powers movie of all things. Anyway, welcome to the Pursuit of Growth program. I am your host, Craig Martin. I am the host of this program as well as the curator for all things Pursuit of Growth. Today, this first full episode, we're not going to get into any real topics or anything lofty or cumbersome. I just wanted to take a chance to introduce myself, introduce the platform, and where you can find us as the Pursuit of Growth, as well as the weekly Pursuit of Growth program, and then kind of lay out the formatting for all things Pursuit of Growth moving forward, at least how I intend them to be. Of course, there's going to be hiccups along the way, but we'll get through it just fine. So that being said, thanks again for checking it out, and let's get into it. All right, so let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to say is when you're looking for it, man, it's amazing what the social media algorithms can do nowadays as far as search, as long as they want you to be seen. And that's a conversation for another day. Just got to stick to the program today. I don't want to inject much opinion here. I just want to where you can find us, what we're going to be doing. So anyway, that being said, let's get right down to it and where all the different platforms that you can find us on. So YouTube is going to be the main jumping off point for any of the videos and the majority of the content that we're going to be doing here at the Pursuit of Growth. We can be found by just searching the Pursuit of Growth in the search bar on YouTube. And hopefully someday I'll have enough following to get my own fancy YouTube URL. But when you're first starting out, they don't just give those away. You got to have somewhat of a following at first. So the best way, and really the best way for any of the platforms nowadays, man, it used to be you had to be really specific if you wanted to find something. Type in the Pursuit of Growth, no matter what platform you're on, then look for that right there, or my face, and you should be able to find us on no matter what platform you're on. Anyway, so YouTube, like I said, look for that. The green logo right there is where the little picture, that's what it is. That's going to be the home base for all of the video content that we're going to push out. Naturally, of course, it'll be streamlined so that it'll be on the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and things of that nature. But in my opinion, the best way, I'm a big YouTube. I watch more YouTube than anything else. I could get rid of my cable package tomorrow and I'd probably be fine because 99% of what I watch, even on my TV, is YouTube streamed through my phone. So when it comes to Instagram, you're going to find us at the Pursuit of Growth. Let me put this up here because it's got some, what do you call this, underscores. So it's at the Pursuit of Growth on Instagram. And my favorite two platforms I want to use are Instagram and YouTube. YouTube for the video portions and Instagram for between the show and things of that nature. It's just what I like. I would probably be most likely to update more often. And the content creating masterminds and influencers tell me that I need to keep up with these things if I want to grow my base. So again, at the Pursuit of Growth with the underscores in between the letters, as you saw, we'll flip back. This is very unprofessional, but we'll flip back to it. You can see on Facebook, check us out at the Pursuit of Growth 412. And Instagram and Facebook are so interchangeable nowadays that anything that's posted on Instagram will go right over to Facebook, and for the most part, vice versa. As I already mentioned, YouTube, the Pursuit of Growth, and I just got a Twitter. I'm going to start tweeting for the first time. I know that's everyone's been on that, but I have not. So TPOG underscore Craig is where you'll find us on. Where you'll find us on the Twitter tweeting, and again, that's TPOG underscore Craig. Similarly, should have warmed up my sibilances. There's a audio file word right there, sibilance. I should have warmed up a little bit on that. So similarly, in addition to the Twitter with that name, I've set up an email account, and you can feel free to email tpog.craig@gmail.com. Again, that's tpog.craig, not underscore, because with emails you got to use periods. Um, tpogcraig@gmail.com. So as we get into the meat and potatoes of this show and we start discussing things, as you'll find, I want this to be a very community based thing. And you might be sitting there saying, well, how can this be community based? You're a dude talking into a camera and a microphone in an empty room on the second floor of your house. Well, we do that by you guys getting out there and commenting and share. Well, not so much sharing, but the comments is what I want to drive this specific part of the Pursuit of Growth, the program. And when it comes to that, some of the things we might be talking about, as you'll see in the teaser clip that I'm gonna play to further introduce what we do here. Sometimes they might be topics that you might want to discuss, but it's not something you want your name attached to. And the example that came to mind was, let's say, you believe that you're somebody that struggles with cannabis use and you think it might be a problem, but you're conflicted because, cannabis is legal now in a great portion, or at least decriminalized in most of the country. It's no more than a summary offense in where I live, uh, you know, with exceptions. I mean, if you get busted with pounds of weed, that's not going to be a summons. But for the most part, simple possessions are just a summons in most of the country, if not just flat out legal. Here, we have medical cards. Let's say this person's employed or they're trying to get employed somewhere, and they say like, I don't think that weed's a big deal. It helps me. It might help with my anxiety. It might help with this, that, or the other thing. But I need a better job, and I find that I cannot put the weed down long enough to be clean. The point is that this person in the example can't put the cannabis down long enough to get a new job because of testing. And we could go back and forth about if we agree with that or not, or the legalities. But I like to deal in current reality. And the current reality is a lot of places still frown upon, or that would be a barrier to entry at a certain employer. So they might want some anonymity in that. And though you may feel free to comment on any of our mediums on something you'd like to discuss on the program, I can understand in a lot of situations when it comes to the more lofty things that we might discuss here, that you might not want to air that business out in public. And I totally understand that. So what I did was I created the tpog.craig email, and that's again at Gmail. I want to be very clear about this. Any questions or things you want to discuss that you might not want to ask in public on a comment section, let's say that person from our example emails the tpog.craig email and says like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I feel about a certain thing. I will use their example and we'll discuss it on the show, but they will not be named in any way. Conversely, if you would say comment on an Instagram photo and say, hey man, I find myself struggling with overeating, and you put that on a public page, I might say like, here's a topic from John, or here's a topic from so and so. But that will not happen if you should choose to use the email address. I won't use any first names. I won't use locations, and we'll go from an understanding of anonymity and respect while still being able to address whatever you would like to hear from me or discuss out in the ether. Again, with all the requisite anonymity that would come with that. So that's where you can find us. Again, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or the email. The issue with Instagram is, and I get like it's part of its draw at the same time, is, the video formatting is different. Instead of the standard, 16:9 aspect ratio, like what you're watching on right now, with Instagram stories, it's 9:16. It's inverse, or it's, this is 16:9. This is 9:16. So it's like the portrait versus landscape. Okay, so I told you where to find us. Now let's get into a little bit more of the meat and potatoes here. So you'll hear me say a lot that it's my show, but it's our conversation, and I want you to have a good understanding of what I mean by that. It's my show, so I have an idea of the general way I want to present things, but I want to treat this as though it's a conversation. And you might be sitting there thinking, like, what kind of conversation could you possibly have? You're sitting in the upstairs of your house talking into a camera and a microphone that there's nobody else here. It's just me. There's nobody even in the house. Just me. So when I say it's our conversation, as I outlined, and we can use that to kind of push content. You know, I can bounce things off of you. You can bounce things off of me through the various platforms in the way that we can interact with each other. And I think we already spoke pretty extensively on how to do that, where to do that, and the ways to do that anonymously. So at this point, some of you might have already seen this, but a few weeks ago, I put a teaser video together, kind of showing the things that we'll be discussing here. And I think it would be good for anybody that hasn't seen that already to give it a look see. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. And obviously, it gives me a chance to test out all this fancy switching stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. We'll come back and talk as we go through it.
Just because they say it's all good doesn't mean it's all good. Looking back, it's like, dude, you're driving around with literally a backpack of heroin. Once I got around the idea that things were just going to be easy and that I'd have to work for them, and then everything changed. The opportunity to learn and to grow and to be better is what I'm talking about. We all get into it where we don't know where to turn or where to go. We're just lost, and we're lost in a day to day to day to day to day to day to over and over and over again. And nothing's changing because we're not changing ourselves. You don't build resilience by having things handed to you. You build it in the struggle. You build it in doubting that you can do something and then getting to the top of that something and say, wow, look, I did it. And then you go attack the next thing. It can't faze you because you're a professional and you're there to do a job. And here I am, something I've wanted to do for the entirety of my life since I was such a little kid. And I'm squandering that for these drugs. The fire service was something.
Okay, so I want to pause it right there for a second and kind of break that down a little bit. So when it pertains to the program here, and I've got some other things that we'll be announcing, like the series, where like the more creative content is going to come from. But as you're seeing here, this is the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here. Life's hurts and hangups, and how we build resilience and get through those things. I come from a background of substance abuse, which we'll get into more as time goes on. But that's not exactly what defines me, because I also come from a background of a soldier, military police officer, firefighter, you know, somebody that has been through sometimes the literal flames of adversity and, battled back and came out on the other side. And that's a lot of what I want to talk about on this program, is how we can all work together to build resilience and resistance to the things in life that become challenging and hold so many people back from reaching their true potential. And that is not to say that I have it all figured out. We all get hung up on, life's little quirks, and a lot of times we tend to make the worst, the small, we tend to make the smallest little molehill into Mount Everest. And my hope is that we can use the examples from my life and our conversation throughout the platforms to really build a community where we can rely on each other in our darkest times, and we can also lift each other up in their victories. So that being said, let's get back into the trailer.
Is, I mean, a tangible one that you're a part of, and they care.
Let me pause this right here because this is going to be quite important. You'll see on the screen that it says unapologetically Christian and unapologetically conservative. If that is not you, please don't turn it off and say, "Oh, this isn't for me. This isn't this. I can't. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a conservative. I can't. I can't deal. I can't do this stuff." Please don't run away from this program just because of that. One of the biggest problems that I believe that we have in this country is that we're not having conversations with people we disagree with or people that we would agree with the majority of the time, but something small, we could agree on everything, but because I'm a conservative and you're more of a liberal, that just shuts down all other options for conversation. And that's just so extremely unfortunate in a country that puts such a premium on the free exchange of ideas. When it comes to the conservative thing, I do believe in limited government. I believe that we live in the best country the world has ever seen, created by man, and I believe that was divinely inspired. I'm unapologetically Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ came to this earth. God took on the form of flesh, came to this earth and was persecuted, suffered, and was put on a cross so that all of our sins could be forgiven and we could be put in right standing with our creator. And I believe that there's no other way to do that. However, I want to be very clear. That's where I get my morals from. This is where I get my foundation of life from. The Christian Bible, the Ten Commandments, and other things of that nature. That and my conservatism, which I actually found in recovery, because in recovery from substance abuse, I took a very self-reliant view on it, and that is one of my beliefs: is that we all need help, but at the end of the day, we do have free will, and it's incumbent upon us to manifest the life that we were intended to live, and we only get one of those, and we are the main facilitators of that. And that's not to say that there aren't outside forces that sometimes can, give us problems or throw wrenches in our plans, but at the end of the day, it's mostly our job. It's mostly incumbent upon us to solve those things. So again, the main point I wanted to stop this real quick is because just because you see conservative and Christian, if that's not you, please don't run the other way. Look, if you can't look past those two things right there, then this was never the place for you to begin with, because I personally follow a few. For example, there's a couple car things on YouTube I follow, and the one person in particular, we could not disagree more as far as our political and religious viewpoints. But at the end of the day, he puts out really good content from car shows and meets and stuff, and that's all I really care about. So I'm willing to disregard his. Now, if he was more blatant about it and like came from like a disrespectful point of view, that might be different, but he doesn't do that. He's just open and honest about who he is and what he believes, and that's what I want to do. This is who I am. This is where I get my values and morals and beliefs from. And my hope would be that we can take the things that we need and leave the things that we don't. That's what I think would be the most fruitful way to do this. So I just wanted to stop and put that caveat on that real quick. Let's finish this up.
Care about you. That's what we need. How blessed are we, man? I mean, honestly. It's the best country, without exception. American exceptionalism, that's where it comes from. The best, bar none, no questions. Spiritually, mentally, physically. We've been programmed to believe that we can run to the government for anything. that we might need in this world. You don't have sufficient health care? There's a program for it. You don't have enough money? We can write you a check. We now have an entire generation that thinks that the government is responsible for these things.
Okay, so I want to pause it again right there. So all those topics that you saw up until this point are going to fit into. There's going to be a set of 4 series, and the series are only really relevant when it pertains to the YouTube content. But that's where most of this is driven from. So everything you see on the Pursuit of Growth, at least now, and it might grow in the future, will be broken up into 4 categories. We're going to have the In the Life series, In the Lawn series, On Location, and the Pursuit of Growth program that you're checking out right now. The In the Life series is going to be talking about all these things right here. In the program will include these things as well. It'll include all the program is like the mashup of all of the In the Life, In the Lawn, and the On Location series. And then the program is like a weekly, more time sensitive, because geez, we live in, it's not even fair to call it a 24-hour media cycle anymore. And I don't mean like political or news media. I mean like in general, we have such short attention spans because of things like this. So, like I said, the 3 main things will be In the Life, In the Lawn, and On Location. A lot of the stuff you're seeing right here will be the In the Life portion. We'll talk about addiction and recovery, struggles and victories. We'll dive into religion and politics a little bit. Again, if you don't like that part, please disregard it. My hope is that everybody gets something out of this. I'm not looking to change minds. That's not my primary goal. We'll say that. And then that's also where we'll get into the more public safety based stuff. And a lot of this will make more sense in requisite episodes. Again, this one's just to kind of lay out the formatting. So with that being said, let's move on to the In the Lawn portion of the video.
Yeah, we don't say In Life and In the Lawn for nothing, bro. What you thought this was? Yeah, spring's a coming. Get out the mowers, the weed whackers, and I know some of y'all hate it, but I cannot wait for spring to come. So maybe you start off at 2 inches, and then next week you bring it up to 2.5, then 3, then 3.5. I'm telling you, you'll make strides. Kentucky Blue, it's all good. But I love me some tall fescue, I tell you what. I'm sure it sounds silly.
So the lawns. It's funny. I've had a lot of people say like, why lawn care, man? And we'll get into that in a future episode. But lawn care for me has always been kind of like a therapy, even when I was doing it for a living. I was in lawn care for almost 10 years, working for a company, cutting grass, landscapes, the whole bit, plowing snow. It's always been, even when I was doing it for work, it was so therapeutic. There's just something about cutting grass to me it's more than just a hobby. It's something that I find really therapeutic. And maybe on the next episode, we'll get into that a little bit more, because I'll be honest with you. So I don't know if you can tell by the lighting, but right here is a window where I'm looking outside, and it's going to be like 60 degrees today, and it no less than 50 the rest of the week. So as you heard, spring is a coming. Spring's a coming, and I can't wait to get out in my lawn. I did some content for a private group that I belong to, and I'm going to see if I can put that up on the In the Lawn as kind of just like a nice little bank of videos taking you through the first renovations I did to my lawn on this new property that I live in. I'm actually coming up on 1 year that I've lived here, and I've been able to make such great strides in my lawn because I don't look at it as a chore. It's a hobby. It's a living thing. And it's funny because like if I said I was into gardening or growing vegetables, people were like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But when you say like, I do lawns, like I make my lawn look nice. A lot of people get it, but a lot of people are like, it's weird. But as you'll come to find out, there are so many similarities where we can use examples of managing a stand of turf grass, or really, it's a living thing. So there's a lot of things we can say that apply to our own lives and the life of a plant or a blade of grass living in your lawn. Please don't make any mistake about it. Lawn care is more than just a hobby to me. Like I said, it is indeed therapy, and we'll get into that. We'll get into all this stuff as time goes on. So let's just finish up the video.
Really, when you have a emptied and safe firearm and you're pieing corners in your house and your significant other's looking at you like, what are you doing? Talk, you go 40, 50, 60 deep. I mean, dude, sometimes I bet there are hundreds of cars down there. The guest is what I'm most excited about. Nobody wants to hear me blabber on all day, every day.
That is the teaser video that I put out a couple of weeks ago. And what's funny is I put that out thinking like, okay, a week or so from then I will start this. And then I decided to completely switch from Macintosh to Macintosh. Does anybody even call it that anymore? Apple. Yeah, I decided to completely move from Apple over to Windows because truthfully, that's where it's at for content creation, unless you have deep pockets. So, as you saw in the end of the clip, we're here to this is a fun place. We're here to discuss all things. Grass isn't the only thing. I came from a background of cars, which we'll talk about. I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I'm a big firearm guy. So the last thing I want to mention is the on location series, and what that's gonna pretty much just take the form of like a coverall, kind of like a vlog type thing. Got some things I haven't done in a long time that I'd love to just take people along on a ride for. And the first one of those we're gonna do is the PCS kickoff meet. And if you don't know what that is the Pittsburgh car scene. It's their annual kickoff meet, and that's gonna be April 11th at the Four Wheel Parts Pittsburgh, which is in Monroeville, right down to Parkway East. And that's from 1 to 5. So we're going to be there on location. We're going to get some footage. We'll talk about some stuff because I love cars. There's a lot of stuff that this is like the podcast or the program or the show about everything and nothing. So that'll be the first on location thing. We'll get some footage, and as you saw at the end, guests, man, I've got some great people. I don't want to say fully lined up, but I got some great ideas for some people that you would really like to hear from. Police officers, fellow content creators, artists. I've got a lot of folks that I can reach out to, and I think we could have some really cool guests on here. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this episode. Oh, this is very important. I will always stress that the best way to ingest the pursuit of growth is on your phone or on a computer, because it's going to be mostly visual content. If you cannot do that, the program, what you're listening to right now, will be available in podcast format, and that'll be available anywhere where podcasts can be consumed. I had alluded to it takes a lot to get your content out to all these different formats, but we are now going to be available on Anchor FM, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and you notice I didn't say Apple there. There was a bit of a problem with Apple Podcasts, but I believe that this episode will be the first one to be on Apple Podcasts. So the big ones, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple. That's where I would say 99% of you would listen to it. But you will always be able to take the program on the go with you to listen. Just understand that there will be probably a lot of visuals and B-roll within the program, and because of that, I think you'd be best suited to watch the content, but you'll be just as well. Like, for example, I personally, I don't listen to the Joe Rogan or the JRE, the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't ever listen to it. I only watch it because I'm a very visual person. But I know people that have never actually sat down and watched an episode. I just need that visual feedback to keep things like my mind from wandering. Keeps me more engaged with the whatever they're discussing over there. But I understand people are busy. My hope would be that if you don't have time to watch, you can certainly listen. And that's probably going to pretty much do it for this first episode. Again, check us out on all the social media platforms. And remember, you can email me about anything at tpog.craig@gmail.com. Remember, though, anything you say on there will be kept anonymous. Other than that, please like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends. Thank you so much for everyone for being along for the ride. I know this was kind of lackluster. Again, it was just kind of like a way to make sure all this stuff was working. And I really appreciate it. We'll see you next week. This is The Pursuit of Growth.